Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, but you knew that. And I'm talking to you about you and your business. And it's your business to kind of keep track of what those crazy politicians are doing towards 2016. I will do a disclaimer at the very beginning. Sigmund's going to pretend that he watched the debate, but the reality is he did not. But he says, you know what, the thing about it is that they all say the same stuff anyway, so it really doesn't matter. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Right, Sigmund?
That's right. No, I didn't see the debate. I'm not going to pretend at all. I mean, I had laundry to do or something.
Oh, it was me that pretended the last time that I saw the debate.
Yeah.
I saw excerpts of that debate, and I saw more than I wish I had seen. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, CNBC needs to take a page out of the book of Fox Business because apparently it was run very professionally, done very well. There were substantive questions asked and substantive answers given.
Not
Imagine
a lot of pushback, but, they've proven incapable of doing appropriate pushback. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes follow-up questions are appropriate. There wasn't many of those. But overall, it was really good because I don't remember any moment where the media played a big part. And that's exactly what a good debate looks like.
Right. Yeah, there's no Candy Crowley moment.
Right.
Oh, I still want to smack her. If I see her, she's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just so egregious what she did to Mitt Romney. But anyway.
You cracked me up. She would clean up the floor with you, dude. Have you seen that woman? And I would die laughing while she was doing it.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't worry. Before you were gone, though, I'd call security.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, I'm hoping that she'd go into diabetic shock about midway through. And
Ooh.
Anyway, so here's the deal. Ted Cruz won that debate handily.
I thought so.
And I didn't see it, but I mean, just reading accounts of it.
I told you right from the very beginning, he's the best debater, and as the field narrowed, he was coming out more and more prominent. It's going to get harder and harder for the rest of the guys on the stage to look as credible as Ted Cruz.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He still comes off very stiff and kind of condescending at times, and he's not. There's a lack of likability factor with Ted Cruz, and that's going to hurt him because let's face it, televised debates, it's like running for student council president. It's not running for president. It's almost like a game show. Which of these people is the most fun to watch? Which one would you like to have a beer with? Which one? I mean, there are so many factors that go into a televised debate that really have nothing to do with their stances on the issues and how they would really, handle themselves, how they comport themselves. It's more about who's the most poised. It's like they're running for Miss America, or in this case, Mr. or Miss America.
That reminds me of the Styx song. We need to add that to our list of songs. I think you're right. In the general election, he's going to have a very difficult time. But in the primaries, it's working because of the fact that there's a bunch of angry voters out there. And they sit there and they look at a TV set and it says, who's going to kick more butt for us of these candidates standing out there? But who's going to be the tough one?
Right, but see, that's Donald Trump.
Yeah, but Ted Cruz kind of comes across like Donald Trump, who's well-educated. He's like a well-educated Donald Trump.
He's like a Donald Trump that's not completely and utterly stupid.
Right. And by the way, Donald Trump, man, this is his best debate performance. He'll probably get a little pan, but he told Carly to quit interrupting, and he was,
which he got booed for that, Kevin.
Huh?
He got booed for that.
No, I understand that, but actually, he got booed from the crowd there at that audience. But what I liked about it, though, is that he tried to be more of a stabilizing influence rather than, hey, this thing is entirely about me. I don't know. I liked his performance in the total context.
Like I said, I didn't see it. I'm just
he's probably going to be
afterwards.
Seen by the pundits as breaking even. He didn't bomb, and he did. But personally, I think it showed a more mature candidate than I've seen up to now.
I'll say a name I didn't hear at all. Carson,
you should have heard more of because, and it's the luxury. See, I'm so tired of all these people who are really excited about inexperienced amateur politicians. They have luxuries that candidates who have run for office simply don't have, like saying 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm for raising the minimum wage, and then saying 2 nights ago that I'm against raising the minimum wage. And that's a luxury you can have when you don't have a voting record.
You have no record. Well,
and that's, it is like the epitome of buyer beware.
Here's the interesting thing about Ben Carson, though. He's been in the media more than anyone else the last 2 weeks. But 2 nights ago, there was just nothing.
Yeah.
There was no talk about him at all. And I find that interesting, and I find that perplexing. I also find it heartening because that means, maybe the stories about him and all of his supposed lies and creations and fabrications, the kind of Brian Williamsing him, hopefully that's going to be done.
Yeah. You mean he'll be done?
No, I mean, hopefully the media will stop trying to Brian Williams.
But Brian Williams himself.
But everything's been proven that he didn't lie about it.
Yeah. How?
What do you mean?
I mean, how has that been proven?
Every story that they've tried to come up with, there's been some corroboration, and therefore they haven't had a gotcha moment.
I don't know. I've got problems with Ben Carson.
Well,
man.
me too.
I just really do. I don't like the ability to flip flop and not be held accountable to it because you have nothing to be held accountable to. That's why you don't elect amateurs to the highest office of the land.
But Kevin, Barack Obama flip flopped, and he was still elected.
I don't want to give the impression that I voted for Barack Obama. Yeah, Barack Obama was a complete amateur disaster. A great book. The guy we had on the Corso. Mm-hmm. Remember we had him on
Jerome Corsi.
Corsi, rather. His book, The Amateur. I mean, it's a fun. Was it Klein or Corsi?
Well, I was going to say it's probably Ed Klein. Yeah,
Klein, yeah. We need to get him on. We don't need amateurs in that job. We need someone who knows a little bit about public policy.
But my point is, they still get elected even when they do flip flop. Yeah. And it's disheartening to see that even with a voting record, which by the way his was mostly present, he still got elected. So the voting record
that's Marco Rubio's record as well. By the way,
yeah, it is. But he's come out and said, "Look, I hate the Senate.
Yeah,
I hate the way things work here. I don't either.
I don't blame him.
I mean, it doesn't speak highly of his own personal integrity that he's taken on a job. People poured money into his campaign." He got elected.
He ain't going to be a senator after his term is over, no matter what happens.
No, but I'm saying people poured money into his campaign for Senate when he ran. And then that's how he represents the people of Florida. That's not cool.
No.
So I like Marco Rubio, but that's a strike against him. But again, he did well at the debate last night. People said he did well, or 2 nights ago. People said he did well. See, I didn't watch it. I don't even know when it was on.
Yeah.
The other issue. Ted Cruz, apparently, they tried to pull a Rick Perry with him.
With the 5 agencies.
Yeah, and he named the Department of Commerce twice. And so, the gotcha media is trying to jump all over that. Dude, really? That's a big deal? No, it's not. So that'll go away. That won't gain any traction. It'll be interesting to see how Ted Cruz, if he gets a bump from this. It'll take a week to know, but...
Daniel... Morans from Huffington Post Politics. Rand Paul went on the offensive, reshaped the debate, and had his strongest performance yet. I would think that's probably true, but I don't think it's strong enough to make him significant.
I don't think it's strong enough to get him above 4%. Yeah. But truly, they said that it was his breakaway performance, no doubt.
He acted the most presidential. He was the most real world. It's so hard because ideologically, I probably agree with Rand Paul more than any of the other candidates. I wish he was a little stronger on national security and foreign policy. The real world requires a strong United States. I don't think we need to be the world's police, like Lindsey Graham would have us believe. But it requires a stronger U.S. than Rand Paul. But he talks in terms of real politics. He sat there and talked about the economic consequences of every one of his opponent's policies. And you can't sit here and tell us you're going to cut trillions while spending trillions more on national security.
Right.
You can't do it. You live in a dream world.
Right.
And I like that, and that's reality. But I just don't know if it's enough to take him to a higher level.
Well, it's not. His campaign is just, pretty much floundering, and it will continue to do so. I don't think he's going to get any meaningful bump out of this.
No, I don't think so.
It's just not his time.
It's not. Well, and honestly, I don't know if he'll ever stop coming across like an academic. He comes across like an academic.
A smarmy academic at that.
Yeah, like one who has been teaching for so long he's ready to be, at least get a sabbatical, if not leave teaching altogether.
Yeah.
It's like he's been around too long. He seems inconvenient.
Well, but look at his dad, I mean...
Now, his dad's not like a grandma, a really angry grandma. Every kid has the grandma they love, and the grandma that's really kind of just a jerk. He's that grandma. Is how Ron Paul. Yes, I said grandma, not grandpa.
Right.
He kind of talks like this, and I'm really angry over where our country's going. It's like, really?
Oh, God, did you hear Ben Carson when he was in that press conference? And he was talking about the way that the media is handling him, and he was getting in this one-on-one with this reporter. And his voice was like stratospherically high. And I just thought to myself, this is a horrible, horrible way to characterize yourself. Do this kind of, do you do this? Did you do this to Barack Obama? Did you do this?
Yeah.
I'm like, do we want to hear 4 years of that?
No.
I'd rather hear, the cackling Hillary at that point.
Absolutely.
Than 4 years of, did you do this to them and not to me? I mean, that's not it. What was he thinking? Mm-hmm. Somebody needs to handle that man. By the way, did you find out something interesting? She's been on the show several times. Donald Trump has a national spokesperson, Katrina Pearson.
Oh, yeah. She has been on the show.
She was like the hugest Ted Cruz supporter.
Interesting.
And she jumped ship and went to Donald Trump.
Because his check's cleared.
Oh,
wow.
Man.
By the way, Ted Cruz is very financially strong. Of the traditional legitimate candidates, he's got the biggest coffers, and he's got a well-managed, well-disciplined team. Both liberal and conservative pundits are saying the exact same thing. He's got a machine. Cruz has a machine.
I hope so, because I like Ted Cruz. I think he's a strong candidate, and I want to see him do well. But he's going to have that ground game. Yep,
it's all about the ground game. That's why one of my biggest frustrations with the debates is they reflect national polls, and really national polls don't matter. And you need to,
especially
really,
this early on.
Right now, all the debate criteria should be how are they showing up in Iowa. That's what we need to see, because the way they're doing it now is American people are going to get surprised. By who showed up on the main platform and who ended up winning. I would not be surprised if Rick Santorum is a top 3 simply because he's got so many contacts in Iowa, so many people. And they would love to tell the national media, screw you. You guys totally misread our tea leaves.
Well, polls in general, when it comes down to like 1%, 2%, the margin for error is in 4 and 5%. How can you possibly know who's polling at 1%, 2%, 4% when you've got a 5% margin of error? I mean, there's a logical fallacy going on here.
Very.
And so for Chris Christie to all of a sudden be bounced down to the kiddie room,
which he dominated.
God.
He dominated that room.
But it's insane.
It is.
I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and Chris Christie, he's way off the, chart, different than I am ideologically. But, I've grown to like Chris Christie more and more during the debates. I really have. He is smart, and he, I keep forgetting the fact he comes from one of the most liberal states in the union, and you've got to behave different politically than you would if you came from Texas.
Sure.
You gotta know what you can shoot for.
Ted Cruz is Ted Cruz because he's from Texas.
It's easy to be Ted Cruz if you're in Texas compared to being Ted Cruz
from New Jersey.
Right. You're not going to be around for long.
That's
and
right.
so, he reminds me more and more of Ronald Reagan in the 70s is what Christie reminds me of. And, because he had to deal as governor of California with a lot of garbage. He couldn't be as conservative as he wanted to be.
Well, but, you could say the same thing about John Kasich, who got a lot of airtime in that most recent debate.
But I can't say the same thing, because Chris Christie says if I were in a different state, I'd be doing this, and I vetoed more than anyone ever in the history of my. He says I have a conservative agenda, whereas John Kasich is a squish. He is a pure, undefiled squish.
But he seems to think that he's the most Reagan-like of the Republicans on the stage.
And I know Kasich. I've known Kasich since the 80s. I used to go to lunch with Kasich when I worked on Capitol Hill, and he was in Congress. And, super nice guy. But he's a perfect example. And as you know, I've been very reluctant to support term limits, but he's the reason why you need to have term limits. His decades of service has made him a product of Washington, D.C. in that environment. Mm-hmm. He's a product of that.
And there's no way for them not to be big spenders at that point and big government aficionados.
Yeah, and officially believe that the government is the solution to our problems.
Right.
You know, he's a lot like
That's his
Newt
job.
Gingrich.
His job is to make government the solution to problems.
Yeah.
Because his job is, as a member of government, to solve problems.
He's a lot like Newt Gingrich, who would say the only problem with government is that I'm not in it.
Yeah.
You know, and so the only problem with the White House is that John Kasich is not in it. And, I don't want that guy in the White House.
Right.
I want the guy who knows that the problems are so systemic, they're probably still going to be there when I leave.
But you're hearing that from
Chris.
You're hearing that from Chris Christie?
I'm sorry?
You think you're hearing that from Chris Christie?
I think so, more so than Kasich.
Well, okay, more so than Kasich, but you're calling Christie like Reagan of the 70s.
Reagan in the 70s wasn't the Reagan of the 80s.
Okay.
Reagan became kind of captured by things like the Kemp, Jack Kemp and that type of thing. He took his game up, significantly in the latter part of the 70s. So
you're still not you're kind of giving a backhanded compliment to Chris Christie by calling him a 70s
but he's moving
Reagan.
in the right direction.
Yeah.
Significantly moving in the right direction. I don't know.
Which is more than I can say for this country.
Amen to that. All right, that's a good point to end on. When we come back, we're going to have more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While they're like it on Facebook, follow on Twitter, and this is The Price of Business.